Okay, at 6 o'clock, we'll call to order the meeting of the Ellettsville Plan Commission for November 7th, 2024. Mike, roll call, please. Or is,
Recording in progress.
oh, yeah.
I'll lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now roll call.
David Gray.
Here.
Dan Swafford.
Here.
Steve Hale.
Here.
Zach Michael.
Here.
Pamela Samples.
Here.
Ryan Skaggs. Pat Wazalowski.
First item on our agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting on October 3rd, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Monthly conflict of interest statement. Does anyone on the,
I don't know if I have a conflict or if I'm just conflicted, but I did have, I guess, concerns to voice or maybe figure out exactly what we're supposed to do here. But with what's on the agenda tonight, I was going to say it's kind of like I don't know what maybe necessarily our role is here, if we're supposed to look at totality of the circumstances or everything involved, or if we're just supposed to take it like as zoning issues one by one. But it's kind of like with what we have going on here with the tech park. I'm seeing a lot of stuff online where they're saying it may be a cyber farm and it's going to be something that could be detrimental to the area and it's going to require all this water. And that's the thing, without us knowing it, I don't know that I'm comfortable approving anything if we don't know what the end all goal is. It's also kind of similar to what's going on east of Ellettsville with the possibility of the new jail going in there. I don't know why we spend so much time on the Envision Ellettsville plan if Monroe County or Bloomington and whoever can just come and build a jail within a mile or two of our city limits. And I think that would greatly affect the Ellettsville community and the Ellettsville economy. So I don't know, I guess, I mean, we have a lot of people that come present things to us that at times seems very minor. So I didn't know if there was ever going to be a time where we would get somebody from Monroe County to come here and kind of explain what's going to happen at the 46 and Kinzer area, or if we're going to get anybody from these the individuals doing this tech park to actually come up here and say what the purpose of the rezoning is or how it's going to affect the area, the economy, the people of Ellettsville, since I doubt, or I don't even know if these people are from here, but I don't want to see Ellettsville get used, I guess, in a detrimental way.
Well, unfortunately on Facebook, it was very inaccurate. The use had never been discussed about the technology park, but for a rezone, you're only considering the property can be rezoned and is able to be rezoned. It meets the comp plan, it meets the UDO, says it's available, but for a rezone, you cannot consider the use for the rezone. It's just, can you strictly rezone the property? And Darla can probably explain it better, but whatever wants to go on there, they have to come back to the Plan Commission then for their development plan approval, and that's where you can have conditions or, but they will go through a lot of work before they come back to the Plan Commission. So I'm not sure if I'm explaining it right. Darla, do you want to explain it?
No, I think Denise is correct. I think where the Plan Commission is really going to weigh in is when the developer comes back with the development plan. And a conflict of interest would typically mean, do you have an interest in the property that is being considered by the Plan Commission this evening?
Yeah, no, I fully understand that. I just didn't know when would be a good time to voice concern, I guess, or.
It would be when they actually come for development plan approval. The person leading the charge to try to stop that rezone west of town is an attorney involved in a $69 million technology park project himself. So we're here for the rezone. I can tell you for your first one, it's Darby McCarty of Smithville, so she's a lifetime Ellettsville resident, and this is strictly her project. So, and her engineer is here. Darby couldn't be here this evening. So, and for the jail, I'd have talked to Darla if this would be appropriate place to have them speak, or if it would be at council would be more appropriate. I'm
Yeah.
just uncertain
Yeah.
about that, but
Yeah, I guess I just had concerns with some of the things that we're approving that would be a benefit to the area and to the economy and to a lot of things. And then, I mean, if it wasn't a jail, if it was a new dump or a nuclear reactor or something that nobody would want yet, I mean, I don't know if we just have to eat it if that's what it is, or if we have
No,
any
your UDO and town code will take care of items such as that. You know, there's maybe certain restrictions on a number of acres that would prohibit it within town or something, so.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Sure, to a degree, yeah.
Okay,
Well, the bottom line is, we're constricted by state law on what we can and cannot consider when we do a rezone. And like Denise said, we can't consider what might happen possibly down the road if it meets the qualifications for a
Until it gets to
rezone.
the planning portion.
Right.
Makes sense.
As far as well, I'll mention that when we get to that point. Okay, did anybody else have any conflict of interest statement? So we have 3 items on our agenda this evening that are considered public hearings. So I'll explain our public hearing procedures. The case is first summarized by our staff. Then the petitioner is allowed to have a presentation, additional comments by our staff if necessary, and by the Planning Commission members. And then we open the floor for public comment. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes, unless we vote to allow more time. 3 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but you can say a lot in 3 minutes as long as you don't repeat yourself over and over again. 30 minutes maximum for public comment. Then the petitioner has 3 minutes for rebuttal. Then rebuttal by the public for a maximum of 15 minutes, 3 minutes per speaker. And then the Planning Commission has discussion and vote. So that's our procedures for the 3 public hearings that are coming up. And we will tell you when it's time for public comment. The first item on our agenda is Resolution 04-2024, recommending an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance to allow for and regulate pole signs.
I'll let Darla go ahead and explain that.
This resolution was discussed briefly at your last Plan Commission meeting. Tonight's the public hearing on it, and it is a resolution to recommend an amendment to the UDO to allow for exempt signs to be exempt from all sign standards and to allow for and regulate pole signs. So it has a dual purpose. And if the Plan Commission sends this to Town Council with a positive recommendation and the council passes it, then this will be the first amendment to the new Unified Development Ordinance. And specifically, it adds a section under sign standards under chapter 4.9 to state that all signs that were previously designated as exempt are exempt from the sign standards, including the requirement to obtain a sign permit. Because that wasn't clear in the UDO that the exempt signs are exempt from having to obtain a sign permit. Then there's a definitions. There will be a new section under definitions to define pole sign, which is a sign that is mounted on a freestanding pole or other support so that the bottom edge of the sign is 9 feet or more above grade, and that's exactly how pole sign is defined or was defined in the previous code. And then there will be, in addition to table 4.13 of the UDO, that will list the restrictions on pole signs. They will be allowed in the agricultural, C1, C2, industrial 1, industrial 2 districts, It will be 40 feet per sign face, not to exceed 26 feet in height. And then there's some other requirements, most of which were pulled from the previous code, one per parcel. They can be internally lit, can't be located within 15 feet of the edge of the street, alley, curb line, or within a sight distance triangle. And there's some other restrictions on it, but again, basically the restrictions were pulled from the previous code.
Okay, does anyone from the Planning Commission have any comments for Denise or Darla in regard to this? We've pretty much beat this to death over the last couple of meetings, so. Okay, next on the agenda is there any public comment on this resolution about the sign ordinance? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move approval to send to council for resolution 04-2024.
With a favorable recommendation.
Favorable recommendation.
Second.
Roll call, please.
David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Steve Hale,
Yes.
Zach Michael,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Pat Wazalowski.
Yes.
Okay, next on our agenda is a zoning map amendment request from agricultural 1 to a planned unit development for 5 parcels with a total of 241.87 acres of the Matson Farms and Technology Park located at 7700 West State Road 46 and from north of West State Road 46 to West Chafin Chapel Road. The petitioner is Chapel Hill Wilderness LLC, case number PC-24-27. And what I was going to say about this a minute ago was that this particular property has been planned for this for years and years and years informally. That was always the intent of this property and kind of the beginning of what we were considering our west side commercial and industrial area. So this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone.
Okay, good evening. Yesterday, we received an updated draft of the traffic study. It's dated October 29th, and it is in your packet today. The petition is a request by Chapel Hill Wilderness LLC and Darby McCarty on behalf of the Matson Farms and Technology Park to rezone 5 parcels totaling 241.87 acres from agricultural 1 to a planned unit development. 1 parcel is located at 7700 West State Road 46, and the other 4 parcels are north of West State Road 46 or south of West Chafin Chapel Road. Let's see. The PUD will cover 5 parcels, which will allow the following districts and allowable uses. Commercial C1, 14 acres, will have 6 to 12 units with uses such as bakeries, professional offices, health clinics, and fitness facilities. Estate residential zoned R1 will consist of 37 acres, 14 lots, with single-family residential and accessory structures with permitted uses. Industrial 1 is 64 acres, 8 to 14 facilities, with uses such as professional offices, warehousing, small-scale assembly, manufacturing, and supercenter retail. Multifamily professional community R3 is 21 acres, have 95 units, includes uses such as multifamily residential, community clubhouse, and accessory buildings. Recreation and Reserve, AG1, is going to be 66 acres. It will serve as a buffer between various districts with uses such as outdoor amusements, parks, playgrounds, picnic areas, and trails. Single-family residential, R2, consists of 40 acres, 86 lots, includes uses such as single-family residential parks, playgrounds, trails, and accessory structures. The properties are bordered by residential and agricultural to the east and west. There is commercial, light industrial, and residential on the south side of State Road 46. Surrounding properties in Monroe County are zoned agricultural Rural Reserve. We had tech review meeting. These are the proposed street dimensions. I won't read through all of them for you. If you want to take a look at them, they're also in your packet. We did go through tech review, and street commissioner approved the street dimensions. So let me know if you need me to pause or anything when I'm going through. So next we have the proposed density for the development and setbacks. This was also went through tech, every aspect of this went through tech review. I can tell you there were just a few questions, and one water line change, the size of it, and then that was it. So this offers for each district, if you will, the setbacks, the minimum acreage, et cetera. There's certain landscape requirements for each district. Landscaping being the form of street trees. Some of it requires landscaping in the parking lot and the building perimeter. Matson Farms and Technology Park's objective is to have a prairie-style aesthetic throughout the development. Prairie-style blends landscaping on the outside with a focus on flowing and functionality on the inside. Architectural standards will be required to follow the minimum design standards as follows. At least 30% of the exterior cladding shall include locally Indiana source brick, stucco, or limestone. Roofs are to be hip, single pitch, or flat style. Building height to width ratio of 1:3 or less from front elevation, except for single-story, single-family residences. Facade colors to mimic natural colors of the surrounding, including tan, brown, green, and gray tones. There's also a green building initiative throughout the project for all 5 parcels. Well, I said 5 parcels, but commercial and multifamily residential facilities shall be constructed to meet or exceed USGBC LEED certified status. While certification is not a requirement for those districts, all development must meet the minimum certification standards. In this PUD, they address ownership and management of the proposed districts. A property management entity will be established to operate and control each area. The entities are responsible for maintenance or certain shared elements such as trees, forest management, recreation, element upkeep, trash/snow removal, street lighting, enforcement of design standards, and creation/modification of community bylaws. Parking and driveway dimensions and quantities shall be in accordance with the Ellettsville Unified Development Ordinance. Timeline and proposed phasing are as follows. Phase 1, the technology park, convenience and support areas. Infrastructure construction is planned to commence in 2025. Phase 2, which is the residential lots and recreational areas. Infrastructure construction is planned to commence in 2028. Phase 3, which is multifamily professional community. Infrastructure construction is planned to commence in 2030. As you know from other zoning map amendments, you have 5 criteria that need to be met for your consideration of the rezone. The comprehensive plan, the change of zoning is substantially in compliance with the existing comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan calls for a mixed-use village center along this section of State Road 46 corridor, which includes a horizontal or vertical mix of uses ranging from residential, small-scale, commercial, and institutional uses such as parks, schools, religious facility, and common facilities. Further, the mixed-use village center is intended to serve as a commercial activity node with residential opportunities. The rezoning will not cause any interference in compliance with the comprehensive plan. Current conditions, the change of zoning is based on the current conditions of the property and the surrounding character of the land. The property has been zoned agricultural since it was annexed into Ellettsville in 2007. The change in zoning is rather minimal in scope because in agricultural 1 zoning district, certain residential, commercial, and industrial uses are permitted. The use of the property, the change in zoning does result in allowance of the most desirable use of the property. The PUD district ordinance is the essence of a mixed-use village center, which offers a mixed residential, commercial, and light industrial uses. The diversity of this project aligns with the land use plan in Chapter 4 of the comprehensive plan. Conservation of property values, the use or value of adjacent properties and those throughout the town will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The rezoning of this property to a PUD is a minor change to the current zoning, considering that residential, commercial, and industrial are allowed in a current A1 zoning district. It is reasonable to believe that the zoning change will have minimal effect on property values. The ordinance is a well-thought-out progression and organization of districts that maximize the potential of the west side of the town at Ellettsville. Responsible development. The change in zoning does promote the responsible development and growth of the property. Without the PUD, any size of high-density commercial operation, light industrial and residential, could occupy the property by right. The construction of buildings in the commercial district will be prairie style, and while there will be warehouse potential, there will not be tall, narrow buildings. Further, there will not be a building taller than the neighboring Cahey warehouse, which is 43 feet tall. There is a traffic study mentioned, and the most recent draft was supplied to you. The most recent draft is in your packet. Intersections studied for the study were State Road 46 at Chafin Chapel Road, Flatwoods Road, Cahey Driveway, Boys and Girls Club Driveway / Matson Street, and Josiane Street. I'll let the petitioner's engineer, Chelsea Moss, explain the traffic study and its findings. Plan Commission action. The Plan Commission shall be in the form of favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to Town Council, which takes final action on the zoning map amendment petition. The change in zoning of this parcel from Agricultural 1 to PUD is relatively small but significant, with the main difference being an organized development with 6 major development areas. The diversity of housing types is needed for the growing community of Ellettsville, and the commercial and industrial districts will provide the much-needed facilities for business attraction. Therefore, staff recommends a favorable recommendation to Town Council for the Matson Farms and Technology Park PUD District Ordinance. Plan Commission shall use the 5 criteria we reviewed this evening for consideration in a recommendation to Council. I've tried to put their maps on. There's the parcel, but they're so small. They are in your packet, though, with the ordinance. And this is the districts, and this is the phases. But I just couldn't get it any larger to make it all work on a screen. So and that's all for planning. Petitioner's representative, Engineer Chelsea Moss, is present.
Okay, does anyone from the Plan Commission have any questions for Denise?
I do. I have a question. I guess, I don't know if this is the time really to ask it or not. It's like, I feel like where Harmon's at, are they going to be connected? Like, is all this going to be connected, Harmon and then this one we're talking about now, is that kind of like going to run in all of one thing? Yeah, so Chris is also here, Chris Smith with Harmon Farms, so they're, you know where Harmon Farms' main entrance is? Mm-hmm. And then Smithville's main entrance is across from that. Mm-hmm. So Smithville will be straightening that entrance, as I understand it, and Chris will have his entrance so they align. And then I think Smithville's or Chapel Hill's second entrance is going to be at the Boys and Girls Club.
So it's what I'm thinking that it's like really not two separate things, but it is two separate things, but it's going to all come together as basically like one, right? Basically.
Yes, they're.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah, there are going to be different developments for sure with what goes in them and the type of housing, but they will have some common things according to the traffic study that they will share in, yes.
Okay. And then this is just a statement, because I've been thinking about this all day long. Okay, we seem to be focused on the west side, and yes, I know we're doing things on what I call my side. Is there gonna be stuff like that going on, newer stuff, or on like my side of the thing? Or is it just gonna be like, you go to Ellettsville and then everything's brand new and focused on the west side? And like what's gonna happen to where I live and,
So that's where the land is that can support these developments. But I can tell you the TIF district that's going to go downtown will help your side of town tremendously.
so it's gonna kind of build it up to make it look, okay.
I can tell you there's some holes in Ellettsville that are in Monroe County, and there are people looking at them for potential annex in, but I never have heard back, so I don't know.
I just wonder, because it just kind of like, we're all focused on the west side, and it's like, so we're just gonna have Ellettsville, but if we're doing the downtown, yeah, we are. We're gonna build it all up, make it look nice, rather than just focus. Okay,
Yes.
that's all I have.
I got a question. On a traffic study, they're mentioning stoplights. Is that for sure, or is that just what they want?
So, as I understand it, and it's been a couple years ago, we had a Zoom meeting with NDOT, and so his traffic study is based on what NDOT would like. So, yes, I'm just a little uncertain about 2 stoplights because one was going to go at Cahey.
The reason I ask that is because we've had this situation with the apartments, and NDOT said that they couldn't put a stoplight there because too close to the other. Well, if they're gonna put a stoplight where Smithville's going in now, and one down at the Boys Club, that's about the same distance as over here. So how can they tell us that they're gonna, unless the state already gave them okay to do it?
We'll let Chelsea explain that.
Am I, for
Does
being...
anybody else have any
Yeah.
other questions for Denise? Or are we ready to hear from the petitioner? Go ahead.
Okay, my name's Chelsea Moss. I'm with Abram Moss Design Group, and I'm representing Chapel Hill Wilderness tonight as the engineer on the planning documents for this project. As far as the traffic study goes, so this is the study that we'll be giving to NDOT. Ultimately, NDOT will have the final say on these lights, but the calculations have been done in accordance with what they were looking for as well as their traffic counts. That is part of why you got an updated version yesterday, is we did traffic counts a couple years ago, and NDOT has done traffic counts since, and we did more traffic counts this summer. And so we had to update the original one you received with the new data. NDOT will not actually approve a stoplight at any of these until the development plans are in place and construction, until it's ready to actually be constructed. In this level of the planning phase, they won't commit to, yes, you can have one, because they are not going to put they're not going to allow a stoplight for something that may not develop for several years. There are a lot of safety issues and traffic issues with that for a stoplight that doesn't have the traffic flows coming to it. But there have been a lot of back and forth discussions, and they are aware of the recommendations. There are actually several things in that report that I want to kind of make sure you guys are aware of. For this project, there would be the 2 traffic lights, and then there's also a third at Keehee, I believe, is where it comes. So you would have several lights in a row. The queuing links that the traffic engineer has looked at do fit in there. It's a little tight between the Matson Street and the Keehee entrance on how that would align. We were not able to align the Matson Street entrance with Keehee. That was our alternate we were looking at. But there's actually a stream, a perennial stream that crosses right about that location. So we would have run into a lot of environmental issues with trying to align with Keehee's entrance. The way it would work is at initial build out, we would be looking at the stoplight at Josie Ann, which is the entrance to Smithville's warehouse right now. That would get a stoplight right off the bat. And so that will be the first one that we'll be working with NDOT to establish and confirm and get full approval for. That will also align with the Harmon Farms project. Most of our traffic for the first build out, which is phase 1, the tech park and convenience, the anticipation is most of the traffic will go through that entrance, especially trucks, as it will be kind of the back entrance to any of the tech park functions. Then by full build out of the entire project, that's where you're seeing the need for a light at the central entrance, if you want to say, at Matson Street. That would be at the Boys and Girls Club location. So that would be closer to full build out of the project. Timeline horizon for this study was 20 years, so that was 2047 as a build out. That kind of gives you a summary of how that lays out. He did look at both signalized intersections and roundabouts because of right-of-way acquisition requirements and the amount of development that's already close to the highway there. Roundabouts were not feasible. It's also very one-sided on the traffic flows, so it goes one direction in the morning, the other in the afternoon, and that's not conducive to a roundabout setup. Let's see here. Overall, from the vision for this development is to create a small neighborhood inside of the Ellettsville community that can provide additional tech jobs, and we are looking at a lot more on the office type buildings in there. We do have allotments for small warehouse, as well as the ability to have a super center retail type setup in there. We have the space laid out for that. None of the tenants are identified at this point. It's a little bit of a chicken egg concept where we really need to at least have the rezone in place before a lot of these companies will commit to the locations. In the central area where we have a roundabout internally to the development, that will be our convenience and support area. Those are going to be the functions that if you're working in the tech park, you want to stop for a sandwich, you need to run by a small bank, drop off, dry cleaning. We've even talked the potential of something like FedEx, UPS, Postal Service, small area where you could do mailing, copying, that kind of stuff. All things that people that are in the tech park or in the residential areas may want to stop off at. It is not a large component of the overall development. It's really to support those other functions. On the residential side of things, my client really wanted to set up something where people could stay in the same neighborhood but transition as their housing needs changed over time. So a young professional could start in the apartment type housing and then move into a small single-family starter home. Later, upgrade to an estate home, and at some point, if they want to downsize, they can go right on back over and get a townhome in that multifamily residential portion. Really give you the opportunity to be in the same neighborhood, have multiple types of housing available. Let's see here. Those are really the points that I wanted to make sure I hit on with you guys, and that you were aware. Do you have any questions for me?
Any questions?
Did that answer your question?
Okay, I don't see any. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
That doesn't mean there won't be some later.
I know.
Yes, I do have one. On that I read, is there going to be a school there, or is it just going to be so if a school wanted to go there? Because at some point I
Yeah,
read.
there's not a plan for a school to be there, but we did, so one of the things we wanted to do with the PUD is we did not want to just rezone these lots to the full zones. We really wanted to restrict those uses a bit. There was the desire to have the opportunity for something school-related if they wanted. There is not enough space to necessarily put a full school in those areas, but that leaves us flexibility for training centers and such. There is a desire to put a conference center type space there that would give the area an alternate to the current conferencing locations. In Bloomington, there's not a good conferencing space on this side of town or even in Owen County. That would give an alternate space like that, especially in a tech-related area.
And then, as far as individual residences or homes, what's the ideal number you guys are looking for, or I guess a maximum?
As far as
Houses or residences or apartments?
numbers, we're looking at about 86 small lot, single-family residences, about 14 estate lots. Those are going to be your, a couple acre lots that you could build a larger home and have a little more separation. And we're estimating somewhere in the 95 units on the multifamily, and that would be a combination of probably one apartment building and then townhome style units for the rest.
Thank you.
And I would point out that the way this is all laid out, the commercial uses and the multifamily are all aligned right along 46, whereas the residential uses with the bigger lots and the regular sized lots are all farther back in the development, closer to what's currently agricultural and some of the residential that's back in.
Yes, we tucked them back kind of in a quieter area off the highway a bit. The desire was to definitely have that tech park right on the highway, have the visual of that. At the same time, we wanted to make sure we have a very cohesive looking development, and that's why we've included architectural standards in this. I know that's not atypical for the PUDs around here, but we wanted to make sure that there were some cohesion on the architecture moving forward with that.
Anybody else?
We
Okay.
have also, just to point out, there is a significant amount of set-aside space for recreation and preserve. So there's a very large buffer between the commercial and tech park area, very large buffer between that and any of the residences. So none of those are going to be, right next to any of the commercial properties. And all of those would be set aside. There are limitations listed in here on how much of the tree cover can be reduced over the lifespan of this development, based on basically the date this gets signed. The most recent aerials on that will be the basis for those recreational and preserve areas. Beyond that, the tree cover will have to be maintained even in the establishment of trails or shelter houses or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the Plan Commission have any other questions for Denise? Okay, seeing none, it's time for public comment. Anyone who wants to speak, come up to the podium, sign in and tell us who you are, and you have 3 minutes.
First time doing this, so I sign in here. Okay. Thank you for having me. My name's Rob Templeman. I'm a community resident here. I live at 7073, and so my property covers 500 feet of what's the proposed R2 residential section. So I'm a resident here, and I have concerns as a homeowner that lives right there. Also have concerns because I am a tech professional. I'm an executive at Indiana University, and before that, I was a senior executive in Department of Defense. And so I'm one of the nation's experts in terms of the technical workforce, and I have situational awareness of the state and the national and international tech parks. And so, just hearing about this for the first time, I love this community. I've traveled all over the world, but I choose to live here, and I am for something that is good for Ellettsville. But I do have concerns as a homeowner. But really, what I'm concerned about here, knowing what I know, one is that I know that 40-acre parcel really well. I have 5 acres of wooded space that adjoin it, and I know enough about Indiana geography that the prairie land in Indiana is farther north. That 40 acres is not prairie, and I would recommend that they do a hydrological survey there, because my property that's adjacent is hilly and has unusual water flows. There's times when there's flooding in some of the valleys, and that goes north towards Chafin Chapel. I don't know what the effects are there. And there's times where there's no water. It's a bit unpredictable. And so the high density homes in that area, I think, could be a concern. I think that there could be impacts to those that live further north. Kind of looking at the area a little bit more, I know the area well, and it's pretty low density in terms of the people that live off of Red Hill Road and that area. And that 40-acre parcel is significantly higher density. And so given that that addition of population that's right there, I'm concerned about, just what the immediate impacts would be. One of them is traffic. Living in the area, this is anecdotal, but I observe a lot of accidents on 46, just a little bit west of us. And so I'd be curious about, the incidence of accidents and what effect this would have. Last concern here is that living as a resident there and dealing with weather emergencies and traffic accidents, the tornado that we had, I think, in 2019, I know firsthand the effects when there are disruptions to traffic around. It's a weird thing in that off of Red Hill Road and Chafin Chapel, if you are unable to take 46, if you can't, go east of Red Hill Road, it's very hard to cut east around the city. You have to go north on Red Hill and traverse back roads to get around. And so if we're gonna have on the order of hundreds of additional people living immediately west, I don't know how well the roads can handle that. I think that concern would be obviated if there was another east-west passage that allowed traffic to go further east. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And you want Chelsea to go and speak to that, or?
Sure.
Yes, thank you very much for your concerns. So on the water resources, stormwater resources front, we will have regional detention ponds located throughout the development for each section, multiple up in the commercial and tech park areas. There are 3 primary crossing points where our main roads will cross over perennial streams. Those are already identified, and we've actually set it up so that the first phase will not cross those. We will cross those when we go to the second and third phases so that we can get a head start on the DNR requirements and that entire process. As we are aware, it's a lengthy process. So we are aware of all of those. Most of the low-lying area on the site will be in that recreational and preserve, specifically for the fact that it is a bit more of a soft soil, wet a lot of the time area. And so we did not want to do any development in that except for those road crossings, just so that we can have access to the other portions. From a traffic study perspective, it was determined that with the signals, most of the residential traffic will come out onto 46 at those signals, as opposed to going on Chapin Chapel. And we also know, I know there is concerns about Flatwoods right now. The state already has plans in place. NDOT is realigning Flatwoods. Our initial plan was to have 3 entrances into the development and align one with Flatwoods, but they are moving that intersection slightly west to create a perpendicular intersection, and as such, it won't even align with this property at all. The other item that I forgot to mention the first time is the traffic study does warrant a full 5 lanes, 4 lanes with a turning along all of 46 through that area. Beyond that, downtown Ellettsville from the traffic study does actually appear to warrant another lane in each direction, which is not feasible. That was outside of our scope to deal with, but it is an issue that our traffic engineer has made NDOT aware of. We've had several discussions about it, and they are aware of the need for some sort of bypass in the area. We've also had discussions with the planning department here so that NDOT and the planning department can begin having discussions along those lines. As these developments happen out this direction, that's going to be something that needs to be handled. So.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to add in your packet is a topography and drainage map that shows the detention ponds, et cetera.
And I will just reiterate again that at this point, we're at the rezone phase. Rezoning this from agricultural to PUD allows us to have much more control over what happens, but we're not at that stage yet. We'll be at that stage later on that will address the hydrology and some of these other things. This is just the rezone portion. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, we're ready for a motion. In that case, I will make a motion that we recommend PC 24-27 with a favorable recommendation to the town council and incorporate the staff's findings in our recommendation.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, please.
David Drake.
How come I always have to go first? Yes.
Dan Swafford.
Yes.
Steve Hale.
Yes.
Zach Michael.
Yes.
Pamela Samples.
Yes.
Pat Wazowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more meetings about this proposal as time goes on. Next item on our agenda is zoning map amendment request from Commercial 2 to Commercial 1 for 2 parcels of 115 acres located at 7633 West State Road 46, petitioner Harmon Farm Lands LLC, case number PC 24-33.
Before you is a request by Harmon Farm Lands LLC to rezone 2 parcels from Commercial 2 to Commercial 1 Neighborhood Commercial. Parcels are located at 7633 West State Road 46. So a little background. On September 11, 2023, Harmon Farms was rezoned from agricultural to Commercial 3. On September 9, 2024, the The Unified Development Ordinance and Zoning Map were passed. The Unified Development Ordinance and Zoning Map Amendment removed all Commercial 3 districts and changed them to Commercial 2 districts. Harmon Farms is a mixed-use village center with a mixture of commercial and residential, including single-family dwellings. Commercial 2 districts do not allow single-family dwellings either by right or special exception. Since Commercial 2 districts prohibit single-family zoning, the petitioner is requesting a zoning map amendment to Commercial 1, which is neighborhood commercial. Commercial 1 zoning allows single-family dwellings by special exception. If you approve Commercial 1 zoning, the petitioner will then proceed to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception to allow single-family dwellings in the subdivision. I'm not going to read the 5 criteria at this point. It was read at Commercial 3 zoning. Plan Commission, as with the PUD, shall be in the form of a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to Town Council, which takes final action on the zoning map amendment. The necessary change in zoning of the parcels from Commercial 2 to Commercial 1 is a result of the approval of the Unified Development Ordinance and Zoning Map Amendment. Under the UDO, Commercial 2 does not allow single-family residential, which is intricate to the subdivision and is needed for a growing community. Ellettsville Comprehensive Plan designates this area of Ellettsville as a mixed-use village center. The zoning of Commercial 1 is the only option for a mixed-use village center under the Unified Development Ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends a favorable recommendation to amend the zoning for Harmon Farms to Commercial 1, neighborhood commercial.
So basically, our.
It's not of the petitioner's doing, it's
Right,
just,
so it's our, so in order to be in line with our comprehensive plan to allow mixed-use development here, we have to rezone this to allow it to be a mixed-use development.
correct.
And what we are actually doing is downgrading the zoning from a more intensive use to a less intensive use.
Correct.
Okay.
And petitioners are present if you have any questions.
Does anybody from the commission have any questions for Denise? Okay, seeing none, you're up. Tell us who you are, because we have no idea.
Not been here very much. This is partially my fault. You know, I sat on the steering committee and did not realize it used to be C1, C2, C3. So we went from C3 to C2. We should have gone from C3 to C1. You think I'd have read that and like brought that up a while back. So we just realized this, that
Well, it was kind of thick.
I have a development going in with single-family residences that I'm not, now is not zoned for, even though I did it a year ago. So this is more of a cleanup on my part. So that's why we're here.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Nothing in the project's changing with this. This is just getting the zoning in line with what we're doing.
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick, what's the max number of homes or residences again, just like we'd asked there?
Well, let's say residences. I don't have a max today. Single family before it's over, probably in the, phase one's something like 70 single family and 80 single family and like 40 townhomes. And that's on 36 acres. That same kind of density we brought around on probably 50 of the remaining acres. And we'll have the commercial zone, which is off of 46, which will have some residences in it. I don't know what yet. Denise and I are talking about, she doesn't like large apartment buildings. So it's kind of one of those. That's why I kept it straight zoning instead of PUD. I wanted to be able to grow as the town grows, and it needs to be appropriate for what the town needs. So we're starting with single family and townhomes that meet the needs of the service workers around here, trying to get affordability into it. And then as we figure it out, we'll move around the corner. Keep working. I would ask, since Smithville's here, thank goodness, that the town kind of work with both of us to get the alignment of, was it Josie Ann? In alignment with what we're thinking about. I'm not sure I know what I'm thinking about yet, but I'd just like to have that conversation. It seems like the town might need to moderate that, not because we can't get along, just because it's in their best interest too. And maybe they have an idea where they want it to go, so I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm open to the conversation. Maybe that's a good conversation. We have a planning together, yeah. That's it.
I got one question. What's gonna happen with the famous barn?
The barn is gonna be strategically dismantled and saved and reused somehow. I have multiple ideas for it, don't have anything in writing. One would be a smaller version of it in a green space as like a community center or a performance area for the community. One would be to repurpose that lumber into a building in the downtown to kind of remind us that that barn was there, kind of, because we're going to keep the horse theme throughout. The idea is like split rail fence instead of other white picket kind of thing, you know? So the names that I proposed for the plat are all from the Harmon family. They gave me a list of 35 names. We got about 20 of them approved through the 911 coordinator. And so, you know, they're trying to maintain the theme and the rural concept of a horse farm, and that barn will be, the barn lumber and the parts of that will be integral to that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I will add, and Pam and Dan can probably add more than I can, but the town recently formed a redevelopment commission, and one of the topics is the TIF out west of town. So I don't know, and they may know that maybe the TIF infrastructure is one of the items we can spend money on from the TIF. Way I understand it, and Darla can also add those funds, we probably wouldn't see any funds for it till 2026 though, so maybe that can be considered by the redevelopment commission, who has a meeting the 12th at 5 o'clock.
Hallelujah.
We can change that
No,
day.
thank you.
So I just wanted to add that, maybe that's a way, and we can help in that area.
To what? Rebuild the barn, the infrastructure?
The infrastructure, I'm gonna try to talk him out some of that wood for the log cabin though, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, anybody else from the planning commission have any questions for Chris? Seeing none, thank you. Okay, we're open to public comment. Anybody have any public comment on this? Seeing none, we're open for a motion.
I'll make a motion to do favorable approval for PC 2433 on the rezoning.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
David Drake,
Yes.
Dan Swafford,
Yes.
Steve Hale,
Yes.
Zach Michael,
Yes.
Pamela Samples,
Yes.
Pat Wazlowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the planning department update.
Next meeting's December 5th, and right now I don't have any new business.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We'll have, Darla's going to be preparing stormwater ordinance by, according to IDEM, we have to update our ordinance, stormwater ordinance.
Can you wait a minute? I can't
Oh.
hear. All right, sorry.
So, according to IDEM, we have to update our stormwater ordinance, and so, that, I forgot, Darla, but that will be coming before you in December.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public that wants to address us about something that wasn't on our agenda?
Oh, can we ask Darla if she had anything to add about the stormwater ordinance?
Oh, sure.
I don't, I will have an ordinance prepared for you to consider, and we do have to have a public hearing, on that before it goes to council, so.
Okay. Does anybody from the planning commission have any comments? Seeing none, we're adjourned.